Hello, this is Mr. Barnett again. Welcome back to my video series. This lesson is about how to calculate descriptive statistics. In other words, mean, median, mode, range, and standard deviation using a spreadsheet in Google Drive. Many of my students in their internal assessments want to calculate these descriptive statistics. They know how to do it, but they often end up doing this by hand or using a graphing calculator, and those are fine ways to calculate those statistics, but there's much more efficient ways to do it, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet here. This is where I ended last video. I had a spreadsheet. It was called Internal Assessment Sample Data. Everything was here. It looked very nice. To do the descriptive statistics, I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to click down here where it says Sheet 1, and I'm going to rename this sheet. I'm just going to call this the raw data. And you're going to see, actually, that I'm going to use a lot of these sheets. So by the end, this spreadsheet is going to be a pretty well-developed project. So this is the raw data. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the data. I can actually do that by clicking and then dragging my mouse. I've selected all the data here. I'm going to right-click, copy it. I'm going to click this plus sign down at the bottom to add a sheet, and I'm going to hit paste. And now the reason that I have done that is that now I have another sheet that I can play around with. And if I make any mistakes here, well, then I can just click right back to raw data. Here everything is. Okay, I'm in my new sheet. And let's say I want to calculate statistics for the population. Well, I notice that population is in column B. Notice the B here. And the first cell here, each of these little boxes is called a cell. The first cell is B2. B2. So the first population is in B2. Then in B3, I have Alaska. District of Columbia is in B10. And that goes all the way down to Wyoming, the last alphabetical state, which is B52. Now, let's say that I want to add up and find the total population of all these United States. Well, the cool thing about this spreadsheet is it has all sorts of functions built in. So I'm going to type here, just so I know what I'm doing, total. And then in this box, I'm going to do this. I'm going to press equals. Equals means I'll do a formula. Sum equals the sum. Then I'm going to make a parentheses and put in the cells that I want to add up. So remember, I started with B2. That was my first cell. I'll put a colon and then B52. Remember, my data went from B2, Alabama, to B52, Wyoming. And watch what happens when I hit this. There's my total population of the United States, 308 million. Okay, well that's total. Now let's say I want to calculate the mean population of the states, the average population of the states. Well, I could take this number here and divide by 51. It's 51 because we are including the District of Columbia, which in my opinion should be a state, but that's a matter for another time. We can also enter a formula. I'm going to hit that equals button for formula, average, and I'm looking at the same values, B2 to B52. Hit enter. There we go. The mean population of a state in the United States is 6 million. Okay, I can do similar things now for other descriptive statistics. Median, mode, I guess what I'm going to do equals median B2 to B52. Remember, that's all the values I'm looking at, is 4 million people. Mode, I'll type equals mode B2 to B52. And there, I'm getting a little error message here, which is interesting. Let's click on this. Error, mode cannot produce a result. No values occur more than once. Well, that kind of makes sense. No two states have exactly the same population. But we figured that out quite easily using this program. And then the last thing I can look at is the standard deviation. I'm going to hit equals STDEV in parentheses B2 to B52. And there we go. My standard deviation is right here. Looks to be about 6.8 million people would be my standard deviation. So in about 5 minutes or less, I've calculated the mean, median, could have got the mode, and the standard deviation for this data. One thing this does not produce is range. There's no range function, so you would have to calculate that by hand, but that shouldn't be too difficult to do. Now here is the coolest part. Let's say I want to find mean, median, mode, and standard deviation for the next 2 columns. And if I scroll up, that's the presidential electoral votes and the percent of US population. Guess what I can do? Using copy and paste, I will click on this cell, drag my mouse down here. I've got that selected. I'll hit copy. Now I'll click here and I will paste it. And I will do the same thing here. I will paste it. And those formulas have automatically transferred to this. So if I look at mean here, I'm now getting the average of the information in column C. So in other words, the average number of electoral votes is 10.5. The mode number of electoral votes is looks to be 3 electoral votes. And then over here, I've got the same statistics for percentage of the US population. So using those formulas, remember I had equals sum, equals average, equals median, and equals mode, and of course equals STDEV, I can easily calculate descriptive statistics for any set of data. So that is a tool that I encourage you to use. I'm going to call this sheet, by the way, Descriptive Stats. Good luck on your own project.